Aloha, everybody. It's Monday, August 21st or Tuesday, August 22nd, depending on your point of view. And in fact, if you're listening to the recording, who knows? It might be the year 2525. Who knows? Anyway, this is the Open-Hearted Practice Group. I saw Kay smile. She probably got that old reference pun there. Year 2525. That was a popular song when I was a kid. But anyway, here we are at the Open-Hearted Practice Group, and Jim flying solo today. Jory is recovering from some dental work that happened last Friday, and you know how it is when you get your tooth pulled. You don't want to talk. You don't want to do nothing. So she's just taking it easy today. And I'm doing okay. I noticed that I don't have as much sparkle, as much energy as I often have. And so I think it's a combination of still mourning the devastation from our disaster here, and mourning the other things that are going on, wildfires in British Columbia and flooding in Southern California, and the list goes on and on of things to mourn. And I think it's taken a little bit of the wind out of my sails. So we're going to focus on empathy today as what we'll be practicing. And we'll do that in just a few minutes. We'll start with a self-connection exercise. It's a chance to practice nonviolent communication just with yourself. Today, we'll listen to about 5 minutes of Marshall Rosenberg, the founder of Nonviolent Communication, talking a little bit about empathy and singing a song for us. Then I'll make small groups for you, so that you can go and connect with friends about whatever comes up for you, about what Marshall has to say and about his song. Then we'll come back here into the main room and connect for a while. Then we'll do some practice with empathy. And I'll explain what empathy means and so forth. So that's the plan. And so let's start with, before I start with the video, I want to just take a few minutes just for us to be together and breathe, and have some silent mourning for all the suffering that is here in Maui and in other places around the world. So let's just have a couple of minutes of self-empathy and being with our feelings and needs. As you breathe in, you might just remember the exercise that we did last week, or maybe it was the week before. We're really focused on how our breath connects us to life, and how we breathe the same air. So we're breathing the same air together, even though we may be hundreds or thousands of miles or kilometers apart. We're still breathing the same air, sharing this planet together. And as you take a breath out, you can just make a wish that everyone's needs be met reliably and abundantly, or whatever words you want to use that focuses on everybody have a sense of well-being. So breathing in, noticing connection, interdependence. Breathing out, making a wish that all beings have access to have their needs satisfied reliably and abundantly. I'd like to share about a five minutes of a video with you with Marshall Rosenberg, the founder of Nonviolent Communication. And then we'll take the next step.
A number of years ago, I was working with a group of women in religious life, and they had a conflict for some 15 months that was creating great pain within their community, and they asked me to help them resolve this. And I suggested that we begin by having everybody express their needs. What needs of yours are not getting met in this situation? And after the first speaker's second word, I could see why, after 15 months, not only had they not been able to resolve the issue, but why it was causing increasing pain. Can anybody guess what the second word was? They couldn't express their needs? But what was the second word? What was the first word? You? First word was I. I think. Yes. That's, as soon as I heard the second word, I could see why it would. Notice my question of them was, what needs of yours are not getting met? And instead of an answer, I got, I think. Immediately I knew trouble. And here's what the rest of the message said. I think that if we are to be in religious life, we must take our commitment seriously and dress as though in an appropriate way. See, I asked for a need. That's what I got back. And then another religious sister said, "Sister, I agree, but I think." See, 15 months. What was the issue? The issue was whether to wear traditional clothing or not, you see. This was the issue. 15 months had not been able to resolve it. In fact, great pain in that 15 months. The community was divided. But I asked, what are you needing? And I got thoughts. Thoughts, you see. So it took me a while to teach them never to hear the thoughts. Do not hear thoughts. Only use the thoughts as a window. Look through the thoughts to the needs that are behind. Hear the needs behind. It'll be a whole different world. Don't hear thoughts. They finally got it. They finally started to look through the words, the thoughts, to what was behind. And then it was amazing how in a short time we resolved the conflict. My partner Ruth Bebermeyer was with me at the time and saw this miracle that comes whenever we hear through the words to what's behind them. I feel so sentenced by your words. I feel so judged and sent away. Before I go, I'd like to know, is that what you meant to say? Before I rise to my defense, before I speak in hurt or fear, before I build that wall of words, tell me, did I really hear? Words are windows or they're walls. They sentence us or set us free. when I speak and when I hear. Let the love light shine through me. There are things I need to say, things that mean so much to me. If my words don't make me clear, will you help me to be free? If I seem to put you down, if you felt I didn't care, try to listen through my words to the feelings that we share. Words are windows or they're walls. They sentence us or set us free. When I speak and when I hear, let the love light shine through me.
So just let that arrive in your heart. Marshall's story, Marshall's song. Just let it register in your own heart. See what needs and feelings come alive in you. Made some breakout rooms for you. And I'd like to encourage you to practice during this check-in round. It'll be 15 minutes long. I'd love to invite you to practice some reflection, which will require you to empathize with the speaker. And we'll talk about the difference between reflection and empathy in a few minutes. But here's what I'd like you to do. You listen to somebody and they say what's alive in them about this song or Marshall's words. And then when they're finished, whoever's next in line to speak just says one sentence to them that starts with, "So for you," and then you think of a need that seems to be reflective of what they were talking about, and you add that, and then you finish with "is important to you." So I'll put it into the chat so you see the model. So blank is important to you. That's all you got to do. You don't have to guess right. The other person will let you know whether you're on track or not. Doesn't really matter whether you're on track. The practice is in listening for the needs. And if you don't know what a need is, you just listen for what's important to the other person. So let me give an example. Let me ask Sarah Joy, if you're willing, to unmute yourself and just say a couple of sentences about what's alive in you after listening to Marshall's song, and then I'll model it.
Thank you, Jim. What's alive in me is the opportunity to connect by holding back my reaction and listening deeper beyond what the words are saying.
So I just let it register for me, and then I say, so deep listening is important to you, Sarah Joy.
Yes. And connecting. Thank you.
And connecting. Deep listening and connecting are important to you. Yeah. Then I would say, what was alive in me? And then the next person would reflect me, and just keep doing that for a while. We'll do it for 15 minutes, and it'll probably, the energy might shift, but as best as you can, reflect back something that you heard from the previous speaker before you share your honesty. And I just see another request for a private room, so I'll put that there. Need to just make a quick adjustment here so the rooms are more equal. Okay. All right, so 15 minutes and we will see you right back here when we're done. Here we go. All right. So let's take another 1-minute pause to mark this transition from being in a small group back to the large group. So an opportunity for you to practice some self-connection as we transition. Reconnecting with the breath, to the life that's within you. Harvesting anything that was important to you during this last practice. Oh, Rob.
Yeah, I feel like I'm struggling. In my breakout, I would have wished for short little needs, reflective needs, and somehow, yeah, I just didn't feel that. So I felt a bit unsatisfied. And yeah, my need for empathy wasn't met somehow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So you left hungry for more. You're really
Yeah.
needing some empathy, and you going up to the empathy salad bar and need to go back for a refill.
And maybe it's me, not them. Maybe it's I'm wondering if I'm sort of more disconnected than I like and not responsive. So I'll look at that. So there's some jackal going on, some self jackal too. So
Yeah,
yeah.
so you're noticing how your own jackals might get in the way of receiving empathy when you need it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's a good
Okay.
point. That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Is that complete for you?
Yes, thank you.
Sure. Allison? Whoops, I'm doing a bad lip reading here. There you go.
There. Oh, there you go. Um, I just wanted to share how excited I was at the, this was new to me, the phrase, so is important to you. I hadn't heard that before. And that's really, really hooked me. It was so simple, and I could access that question, and I accessed it touched my own curiosity. It felt really easy. And that just really worked for me. And so I was just thrilled, and I suspected that was a kind of Jim Mansky inspiration. And wow, I'm using that one. That really worked for me. It was fresh, and it got me right there without a lot of, frankly, thinking about needs.
Hmm. Yeah, so for you, it's simplicity and novelty is important.
Well, it just seemed to be a very natural thing for me, a gateway for me. It was just an easy one because it tuned into my curiosity.
Nice. Yes. Yes, I think that's a really important part of empathy is that it emerges from our natural curiosity about what's going on in the other person. And we can't do that if we're caught up in thinking that the other person's criticizing us or judging us or blaming us. And so in that video that I started with, I'll put the link in the chat in a little while, so you'll have it. But in the first part of that video, Marshall's talking about an underlying principle of nonviolent communication, which is that the only two things a human being can ever say are please or thank you. And so anytime we open our mouth, we're making a statement about our needs, even if we're coming from thought. And so if we attune our heart to that that frequency, that, oh, whatever the other person says, they're only going to be saying please or thank you, then now I can pay attention to what's important to them. And what's important to them is getting their needs met. I mean, who doesn't want to get their needs met? Everybody wants to get their needs met. Even if you don't know you have needs, you want to get your needs met. A baby, we have a brand new baby that just was born next door to our house. She's now 1 month old, and I'm totally confident that she's speaking pure giraffe every moment of the day, because we can hear her saying please. And it's quite a lovely sound. The parents are sometimes a little worried that the baby's cries might irritate us or annoy us or whatever. And we do our best to empathize and to actually share that. For me, hearing that baby cry is like an affirmation of life. This baby is practicing NVC, saying, please feed me, please change me, please hold me, please love me, please this. And then we got to meet the baby for the first time day before yesterday, or anyway, within the last couple of days. And, you know, a 1 month old baby isn't totally wired up yet. You know, you can just tell they're kind of floppy, and, you know, they don't have very much control yet. And they can't really, their eyes go wherever they want to go. But I could see the difference between please and thank you in every moment. Sometimes the baby would kind of like look like it was kind of smiling, and although who knows, I was empathizing that it was kind of delighted to be being held by daddy and being moved and maybe hearing new voices. And then every once in a while, he would get uncomfortable. She would get uncomfortable and then kind of get a little kvetchy and a little complainy. And that was just please change something. Please attend to me. So I agree with you, Allison, that this simple sentence, so blank is important to you, transformed my my empathy experience, being able to reflect empathy for other people. Because I didn't have to worry about two questions, which was feelings and needs, which is the traditional way NVC is often taught. Are you feeling, fill in the blank for the feeling, because you're needing, then you fill in the need. And for some of us, including me, when I was first learning NVC, I didn't have very much vocabulary, especially for needs. And so I was all up in my head trying to figure out what people needed rather than just being present with them. And so it reminds me of a quote that I found from Marshall. So I'm going to share my screen with you. So, and then we'll hear some more reflections about the small group or whatever comes up for you about this quote. And I'll read it for the recording. If you think ahead to what to say next, like how to fix it or make the person feel better, boom, off the board. You're into sure. Empathy requires staying with the energy that's here right now, not using any technique, just being present. When I've really connected to this energy, it's like I wasn't there. I call this watching the magic show. In this presence, a very precious energy works through us that can heal anything. And this relieves me from my fix-it tendencies. put it into the chat too, for those who might not be able to see it on your screen very well, because you're on the phone or whatever. Allison, anything come up for you when you hear that?
Wow, that actually, that quote showed me, it seemed to show me a quality in Marshall I really hadn't seen before after all these years. Um, that was very yummy and transcendent. So this is a night full of surprises for me because this whole thing about, so X isn't really important to you, because I'm always so curious, and it's such a wonderful way to learn about someone. Is a way, is an easy, playful, and sort of generous hearted way to connect. I don't feel like I'm prying or I'm guessing, laying something on them. I am just really excited that they might open up and show me and share with me what's important to them. How delicious. It's like dessert. Ooh,
Delicious.
start with dessert.
How delicious, like a dessert.
Huh. Ooh, what's important to you? I'm listening for that. That's easier than listening for needs, because I get worried that I'm not. Ooh,
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
important is like, ooh, what, like asking them, what's your favorite thing? You know? What does your heart sing of when your heart sings, what's it singing?
Yeah. What's your
What's
heart singing? I love that.
what's important to you? So thank you again.
You're welcome. Anybody else want to share anything about the small group work that you did? Yeah, Janelle, please.
Hey, um, so I don't know if our group was perhaps a little different, and I think we acknowledged to start with we may have not gotten really clear on the instructions. What I experienced was when there was just one need mentioned, and maybe I'd said a bit more, and there were a couple of quite distinct needs in it. It felt like part of it landed and part of it was missing. And I noticed as we went round that we started kind of automatically saying one or two of the needs. Well, so first I noticed that someone would say what the other need was that had not been touched on because we'd gone with one. And then I noticed that we kind of automatically started saying maybe two or three needs in the reflection. And then it felt more complete in receiving it.
Yeah. Yeah, so it sounds like you kind of noticed what was happening, took in the feedback, and then you adjusted your reflections based on what you were learning. Is that accurate?
Yeah, and I still don't know if we got the right instruction up front. We were meant to be just focused on one thing, but yes, in terms of what the experience was, it really was kind of being created in the space to for what felt like it was working for us.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I love it actually when people ignore the instructions and just do whatever life encourages them to do. You'll learn either way. You know, I totally trust the power of this living energy that we call life. So no way you can make a mistake in this practice group. Just impossible. How do you feel hearing that, Janelle?
Relieved. Like there's all this life energy bubbling out of me that just wants to kind of, escape. Like it was a little bit trapped. So thank you.
Welcome. And Jeff.
Yeah, I'm appreciating the conversation. I know that, and what I think you just shared with us, at least to me, was, like, I don't have to be thinking about what the right answer is. I don't have to be thinking about what I'm going to say to the person, or if I'm going to like draw the correct need off the list from some list somewhere. And the impression that I got was that I could have just said, what's important to you is talking to your children. you know, because that doesn't seem like a need per se, you know, and so I made it more complex than it was. And it feels good to be thinking, you know, just say what I think is important to the person, and it doesn't have to be off a list somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, sometimes I think we skip an opportunity to connect, and we go straight for the need, when actually what might be the most supportive thing in the moment is to connect to the observation or to the wish. So for example, somebody says, I can't believe what my boss did today at work. You know, every day this week, he has undermined my authority. He tries to tell me what I'm supposed to do. I go and do it. And then he comes back over and over again. And then he tells my charges to do what he wants them to do rather than what I want to do. And so the classic NVC empathy would be, oh, are you really feeling frustrated because you really want some autonomy at work? Well, that might actually land. But maybe at the very first beginning layer of empathy, if this is your partner that just came home from work and is kind of in this mode of wanting to be heard, you might just say, sounds like you had a tough day at work.
Hmm.
Just acknowledge their emotional experience using the least number of words possible.
Hmm.
And that way you don't have to get all caught up in your head trying to go through the Rolodex of needs words or feelings words. You can just stay present for whatever is coming out of the other person's mouth. And in fact, you may choose not to even say a word. You might just choose to be present and see. I used to think that I had to say something. You know, if someone's in pain, I'm listening to them, and it's like, it's my job to somehow empathically connect, to somehow make them feel better. And now I'm learning that really the biggest gift is just listening, not my words, my heart, listening with my heart. So there's another quote from Marshall about this. Let's see if I can find it here. They're not in any particular order because I figured that. Yeah, here we go. So this one says, if you say any words at all, it's because you're not sure you were with the person. So you may say some words, but the words are not empathy. Empathy is when the other person feels the connection to what's alive in you. So we get the sense of empathy when there's actually something going on between both of our nervous systems. And we sense it in the other person. And I think Rob was onto something in that there's something that I can do when I'm in pain that can support an empathic process to actually happen by opening myself to be able to experience another person's empathy. And then it doesn't matter what they say. I'm kind of primed myself to be present with them. And on the other hand, if I'm the one who's listening, I can prime myself to be a more empathic listener by really getting clear on my intention. Why am I listening in the first place? In other words, a little self-empathy before I listen. So let's just say that you know, I walk in and I notice that Jory looks a little bit what I interpret, it seems that she's in distress. And so I can walk in and I can invite some connection. I can say, something going on? And then I just become present. I just listen. I don't have to say anything. If I start to get lost, like, you know, maybe she says more sentences than I'm able to, my little pea brain can track, then I might just interrupt and say, so is it that blank is important to you? And I'm doing that for me to support the quality of empathic connection. So never think that your words are for the other person. They're for you and to support you in your empathic connection. Now, we also might have an empathic guess that a reflection would be something important to the other person. So then we might follow that intuition and say, so it sounds like blank is important to you, or are you feeling because you're needing, or whatever words you sense will lead to some connection. But the empathy is never about the words. The empathy is about something that's going on inside of us. Does that make sense to you, Jeff?
I'm loving it. It's mind blowing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Anybody else have any reflections on the small group or anything that's come up so far about empathy? Yeah, Rob.
I hear what you're saying, and I really deeply connect with it. And yet sometimes empathy, a few words, actually even more words, is so luscious and it is so life-giving that I dearly enjoy it.
Yeah. So you notice that sometimes when someone, you can almost tell that someone's listening to you because they're able to reflect back the essence, not only the essence of what you've said, but in terms of feelings and needs, but maybe even more that really lets you know that the other person is with you and cares about
Mhm.
you. Is that right?
Yeah, with me and cares about me. Exactly.
Yeah. 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 So this really is pointing to this distinction between empathy and reflection. Empathy is something that it's like a state of being. I don't know if it was in that first quote or if it's in another quote that I was going to share with you, but I'll find it in just a second. But it's like when I'm truly with a person, I don't really exist anymore as an individual separate person. I am rather in empathy. It's like a shared state of being. I don't have an agenda. I'm not trying to fix somebody. I'm not trying to cheer them up. I'm not sharing my own honesty with them. I'm just with them. And then sometimes the intuition is a reflection could somehow convey my empathy. So then I might say, so blank is important to you, or are you feeling because you're needing, or acknowledge their experience, or reflect back the story that I heard, or it could be lots of different things, but that's not empathy. It comes from empathy and it conveys this quality of connection and compassion. So yes, I'm in total harmony with you, Rob, that sometimes what's most nurturing is to have someone give a full representation of what they heard me say. And other times what the biggest gift is just silent presence. And it's not like one answer always fits all. Does that make sense to you, Rob?
Well, mostly, but maybe maybe it's the 80-20 rule or something. Sometimes I'm discombobulated. So when somebody says, can just see my state, all of a sudden I've got a witness and I connect in. So I love what you're saying. It's a very high sense of aware of being and almost like enlightenment or something, That's what you're talking about to me, And I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's our basic nature to enjoy compassionate giving and receiving. And I can't think of any greater compassionate gift than listening to another human being who's in pain. And it's now, here's the stretch for all of us, is if I was to walk into, I don't know, like the other day I went to one of the food trucks. The tourists have fled Maui. 15,000 tourists left within within 48 hours of the fire. And so this means that a lot of the restaurant owners and tour guides and so forth, they're now struggling with their businesses. And so I've been eating out more than I probably should, and because I want to support these local businesses. So I just started connecting with a lady at a food truck, and it was just such an instant connection because we had this shared experience of living in Maui during this disaster. And I don't know her. I might have seen her at the food truck before, but I don't really know her. I don't have any baggage with her. She has no baggage with me. She shares her pain. I'm able to just be with her and have some kind of resonant experience. But then if it's my daughter or my son or my, fill in the blank with somebody that I've got more luggage with, and they start sharing their pain, and I'm the one who stimulated their pain, especially if their sentence begins with, I think you, dad or husband, did this, then now it's how do I find the giraffe ears big enough to hear them saying please? And so the way that I do that is usually not successfully at first. It takes some time, but I'm using self-empathy, right? The first layer is I hear what they think. And then the second layer is I think that what they think means something about me. Oh, this is so tragic. This leads to fights even in convents, apparently, like Marshall was talking about in his story. And it's like, okay, so if I can remember that all a person is ever saying is please, that they're never criticizing me then. They're just talking about they have a need that's not satisfied. Well, that changes everything. I can't hear what another person thinks. I can't hear another person's judgment when I have my giraffe ears on. All I hear is observations, feelings, needs, and requests. So let's go practice some more. And this time I made pairs. I think there might be one group of 3, but it's pretty much pairs. Again, 15 minutes. So divide the time up. I'll send a message after 7.5 minutes. And this time, start with a minute of silence. And in that minute of silence, silently choose who's going to be the first speaker. And when that person starts to speak, the listener moves into empathy, this spacious, open willingness to hear please. And just practice that. Maybe you're led to say, so for you, something is important. Maybe you're led to say something else. But focus on just cultivating that sense of empathy. I'll send a message after 6 minutes, so you can start winding up and switching so that the other person gets a chance to practice expression and empathy. So you'll change roles. Topic, whatever is alive in you about empathy. What's alive in you about empathy? Anything that's alive in you. Could be celebrations, could be mornings, whatever. Okay. So again, 15 minutes. I'll send a message after when it's halfway through, and also let you know when it's time to start transitioning to the next person. Okay. Enjoy this practice. And yeah, here we go. And then welcome back. before we hear from people, I want to encourage you again to take a minute of self-empathy. Just to notice how your body is right now. Become present to your experience in this moment. And whatever feelings you notice in your body, do the best you can to greet them with warmth. If you feel irritated or disappointed or sense of celebration or warmth or frustration, whatever the feeling is, give yourself some warm, resonant connection. Hear either the please or the thank you that's alive in you right now. And then consider the last 15 minutes and answer this question for yourself, and then we'll get some reflections. What did you do or not do that you sense supported empathic connection? What did you do that supported empathic connection? Or maybe what didn't you do that supported empathic connection? So be quiet for a minute. Maybe you want to write yourself a note to acknowledge the observation. What behavior supported empathic connection? Monica.
Okay, I'm just sharing a celebration and thank you, Jem, for putting me with my partner because we had like the same story. And so we can totally empathize with each other and understand each other. So just sharing celebration and gratitude. Thank you. Aloha.
Aloha. You're welcome. Siva.
And again, as Monica said, thank you for partnering me with Annie. Because we were having the same problem. But you asked an additional question as what did I do or what did I not do that brought us closer empathically together? And that is, I sort of made a joke that of reaching out for connection. And she laughed, and I laughed that she laughed, and that brought us closer together.
Thanks. Don't you love it when that happens? That sense of how humor can support connection sometimes. This is something. This is something I notice in Jory when that she has this real gift of using humor to dissolve stress and tension sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's a very powerful strategy, I guess, to do that. So I'm glad you had that experience and shared about it, Siva.
Thank you for noticing.
Yeah. And by the way, these groups were random. By the I didn't really place them, so you can thank a higher power.
Yeah.
And you can also blame a higher power if it didn't work out for you.
No, you can't blame.
Yeah,
Can't,
I missed.
can't blame. You can say, what is it I missed?
Yeah, I missed a couple of requests because I can't keep track of everything when I'm by myself. Um, so and somebody asked me to put this chat into the this quote into the chat, which I thought I did, but just in case it didn't come across the first time, there it is, the last quote that I shared. Tanya. Oops, Tanya, I can't hear you yet.
Sometimes that's for the best. I just so enjoyed Lila and meeting her for the first time, and what made the connection was our open-heartedness. You know, hence the name of the practice group.
Yes, hence the name. Yeah, lovely.
And
And can you go ahead?
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, can you point to anything that you did or didn't do that you imagine supported connection?
I came with that intention.
Yeah, so important to come with that intention.
So the last thing was the thing that I wanted to mention was when we came back, you know, and it's all like all the little faces start popping up, and I saw Sarah Joy's beautiful face, and I just started looking around, and I saw Kay, and I saw Isabel, and I saw Beth and Don, and people I've just shared so much with, and it just like my heart just went like, you know, it just like, you know, expanded and grew. It was just so lovely. What a lovely moment. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. I mean, I really catch the loveliness, as how I'm interpreting it, of the connections that we have built through the open-hearted practice group over the years, and through other NBC events that maybe you've shared with people, and how much connection and trust and safety that we have cultivated together for these years. Rob?
Yeah, I had a little bit the opposite. I was with a guy, Samuel, and it felt I was feeling enough connection, aliveness without going into the joking right away. And, you know, I just let it be in the distance because I thought of all these funny things to say, or, you know, like, because we had quite a bit in common, and so just presence and listening was enough without starting the jokes right away.
Yeah. Presence and empathy is enough. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Allison? Oops, can't hear you yet.
I have been struggling a bit, partly through my moving into more Buddhist meditation practices, with some confusion about empathy. Years ago, there was a discussion between sympathy and empathy, and I kind of got that distinguishment. But I have some fears I see about empathy that are connected with my propensity to absorb and take on other people's conditions and feelings and stuff, and sort of make them mine. And there's something about empathy that teeters on that pitfall of mine. And when you were speaking about empathy, I heard something. I went somewhere with how you were speaking about it. It registered with me as empathy is a place, like a territory. I'm not carrying the empathy. Empathy is like a resonance. It's like a location. It's like going to a different city. And that was so profoundly joyful and heart opening for me, so liberating. It's like, oh, because I'm not going, Allison isn't being empathetic to this other person. No, I'm going to the city of empathy. And there, the empathy envelops both of us. And we are now together in empathy. It's like a city. It's a territory. It's the
Yeah,
state of empathy.
I love it. I love it. Yeah.
So thank you. This has been a whole night full of these like liberations. So I almost feel, you know, I always struggle a bit with English, even though I don't have an option. I think I might need to think of some other word that I can use so that I can get out of my prior clenching, clutching ideas about empathy that I've sort of toxified the word on myself. So anyway, thank you so much. The
You're very
territory of empathy. Ooh, wow.
great. The
Thank
territory
you.
of empathy. I'll meet you there.
Okay, great.
That's the place out beyond right doing and wrong doing.
Yes. And then I can actually like take the armor off and take the clutching away because empathy is coming to me. It's not my responsibility. It's not my doing. It's what it's there coming through me. It's not, I don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
So thank you, Jim.
Welcome. Siva, is that a fresh hand or is that an old hand? I didn't hear you if you spoke. I guess it's an old hand. Yeah, okay, great. Okay. One more quote to share with you today, and then I'm going to put you back into different groups, and I'll give you the instruction for the final group. Then when you come back, I think Kirsten is gonna arrive. Kirsten is a certified trainer from Denmark who helped us to launch our fundraising campaign for the NVC school in Africa. And so if it was going to work for her, she was going to show up. She has to get up very early in the morning to join us, but she might be back. But here is the other quote to consider. In nonviolent communication, no matter what words others may use to express themselves, we simply listen for their observations, feelings, needs, and requests. Then we may wish to reflect back, paraphrasing what we have understood. We stay with empathy, allowing others the opportunity to fully express themselves before we turn our attention to solutions or requests for relief. And yes, I will put that into the chat. Just leave it up there for another second of savoring. I like how Marshall says, we simply listen. I mean, that's the territory that Allison was pointing to. It's simple. We simply listen. And what are we listening to? We're listening to please or thank you. Yeah, Jeanette.
Okay, this is the dilemma. When I expressed that it's really lovely to feel connection with others, and especially when there's a mutual collaboration. And then I end there and I don't say anything, and there's absolutely no words back for, we had this exercise for 10 or 15 minutes. And then I wondered, if I don't say anything, will there ever be any change of this energy? And finally I said, I'm curious what you heard me say. And what happened is I had a lot of mourning in between this and sadness, because that's how I usually feel, that I'm trying to always guess what somebody else is going through. But if I'm quiet and say nothing, there's no curiosity back.
Mm.
And that person isn't here anymore, but I will make contact later. And so if there's nothing like other than silence, that could be discouraging sometimes. I think the first step, as you said, is listening. But if there's nothing ever back, and then I switched, well, you know, I actually reached out and said, well, I'm curious, what did this bring up for you? And, you know, we'll talk a little further off this thing tonight, because unless I bring it up, there's nothing. So I'm having to always do I feel if I don't reach out in curiosity, nada.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering about that.
So you're really pointing out to I think a fundamental important piece about nonviolent communication, which is empathy is only half of it. It's actually only a third of it. That honesty is also a part of how we build connection. And so when you express your curiosity and end on a clear and present request, that also can be transformative to create connection. So I'm in total harmony with you. And
Thank you.
I'm really with what I learned from Kelly Bryson, another certified trainer. He said, this is a paraphrase, empathy is like a salve. It really contributes to healing. Honesty, though, is where the transformation takes place. When we actually move into, from that empathic country, then we move into this compassionate country where we collaborate together to figure out if there's a way we can make life more wonderful from now on. Yeah.
And that takes a lot of the vulnerability to have courage to mess up the energy a little bit and say, well, I'm wondering how that landed, or what is coming up for you, or
yes,
because without that, then it's almost like, yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Very, very vulnerable to make a request, because this other person might say no, which we might have trouble hearing that as please or thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Siva, then we'll go back to small groups briefly. Oops, can't hear you yet, Siva. Tricky on the phone, isn't it? There you go.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for that bit of empathy. When the person that I'm speaking to says something in honesty, it could be that it triggers me in feeling threatened.
Possible.
And then, yeah.
And then
that's when
something else will happen. You're absolutely right.
And then I don't feel safe. And it's hard to say, thank you for your honesty.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, this is easier said than done, but I'll just say it again. Never hear what another person thinks. You'll live longer.
But the other person tells me what they think.
Yeah. But you can't
in the person's view of being honest.
Yeah.
Get it already.
Yeah. And then it becomes our job to either put our giraffe ears on or go into our old habits. Either one, and then you find out what might work to create connection.
Okay,
Absolutely.
let's just go one step further, putting on my giraffe ears. How would that work? What would I say?
Yeah, so let's say so you be the other person and criticize me or blame me or something like that. I'll show you.
Mm, I don't want to do that. You get it anyhow.
Yeah. I mean, the idea would be, I mean, the shortcut answer is you go to, so blank is important to you.
So freedom is important to you.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. So freedom is important to you.
Mhm.
And then, like, what in the time that you took to say that, it gives you a chance to reconnect yourself and find out if you want to stay in the conversation or not.
Okay, so let's get divorced.
Yeah. So let's go back to small groups and just do a checkout so everybody gets to be heard about what you're taking away. So it's different groups today for this. Most of the groups are 3 or 4. So you'll have to be fairly quick. Let's see here, people left. 3. So everyone, we'll do it for just 10 minutes. And there you go. So just do a checkout round. What are you taking away, and how can you imagine that what you learned today about empathy might help? We'll just do this for 10 minutes, and then we'll find out if Kirsten shows up. All right, see you back here in 10 minutes. What are you taking away? What a delight for me to see you all again, to see your faces, to see your smiles, just to imagine what's in your heart after our time together today. I'm imagining lots of opportunities for growth and enjoyment, and looking forward to continuing our practice next week. And we'll focus next week on the puzzle that Siva mentioned. Joy and I were talking about what we might do next week, and I decided that it's going to be something like receiving blame and criticism, and so we'll play with it some more next week. Here we are doing the best we can to be in empathy, and what we get back is you're not doing it good enough. What do we do with that? How do we hear that as please? And so that's next week. Then here in the chat is the link to the Marshall video that we started with today. It's 10 minutes long. It's Marshall talking about please and thank you, and then also about thinking and empathy. And so if you're curious to go back and connect with Marshall's words, feel free to do that. I guess maybe my wires were crossed with Kirsten. Maybe she's coming next week, but I do want to let you know that I have forwarded your donations on to Kirsten and the project in Kenya. You guys contributed about $2,000, and Joy and I added $2,000. So we made a big dent in their project. We put $4,000 into their project, which is really exciting for me. And we're going to shift the fundraising. Those of you who come a lot know that Joy and I do these as a gift. We're kind of semi-retired and we don't really need NBC income, but we do love it to give people the opportunity to contribute, and then we pay your gift forward. And so we're going to be giving money that we receive for the duration to the Maui Food Bank. Maui Food Bank is on the ground and supporting people who lost their homes and lost their kitchens and so forth. There was about 1,800 homes that were destroyed in one fire, and about 20 in another. And so I really trust the Maui Food Bank. which is mauifoodbank.org. Please give money directly to them. If you're an American citizen and like to get a tax deduction, you can do that with them. And if any money that we receive as a gift, an acknowledgement, will go straight to the Maui Food Bank. So that's that. Jory loves to do one-on-one sessions with people. And so if that sounds like something that might contribute to your well-being, here's a link to her scheduler. She should be feeling better in the next couple of days. She's feeling better now. She's just a little tired this afternoon. And then we do have our recordings are on YouTube and on our website. So here's the link to our website where the recordings reside. For some reason, my YouTube link is missing in the moment. I think that's enough for announcements. I see there's one more hand up from Siva, and then we'll see if there's anything else that anybody would like to say. Siva? Looks like Siva got suddenly frozen. So we'll come back to Siva. Go to Tanya first.
Jim, I'm just overwhelmed with gratitude and appreciation of you showing up in the midst of all this going on around you. And I know that your heart's been broken. And I love that the way you're healing it is to contribute. And I just wanted to acknowledge that.
Thank you, Tanya. That's meaningful for me to take in. And I really appreciate it. It's been very healing for me to just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And I can't think of anything the world needs more than NVC. So that's why I keep putting my NVC shoes on to move forward. And I do notice, I was just reading an article about something called, I can't remember exactly what they call it, but something like wildfire fatigue. Now, I wasn't really close to the wildfire like so many of my brothers and sisters were, but there's a real psychological effect to disasters, and it can cut your energy. You know, it's natural to feel sad when your needs are not satisfied. And when you feel sad, it's hard to find the energy to do things. I was reading about this man and his wife who survived the Camp Fire in 2000, and that was a couple years ago. And he's a builder, and he could usually build a house in a year or less. Took him 2 years to build his house. He says he just couldn't get up. He couldn't figure out how to do anything. He had brain fog, and even the particulates from the smoke can affect our brains. And so I'm really doing my best to be gentle with myself. And I encourage all of us to be gentle with ourselves, because if it's not the Maui fire, it's Ukraine. If it's not Ukraine, it's this thing or that thing politically, or floods in California, or terrible things, and you name it. You know, we've got drama everywhere. And so please take care of yourselves and nurture yourselves through whatever you're going through as well. And then we'll finish up with Siva, unless there's somebody else that wants to say something.
I just noticed the connection between drama and trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Jim, this is sort of just a fact in my mind. I was at the IIT in Los Angeles, and there is giraffes around the world. And the giraffes around the world, the one that Kirsten is, there's 2 in Kenya, I believe, but there was no information about that at the giraffes around the world. And I know that you're planning something in
Bali.
Bali, yeah. And so just to alert you
Yes.
about that.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that heads up. For those of you who haven't been to an IIT, Siva is referring to an event that we we typically do toward the end of the IIT, where we actually sometimes we open it up to the public to come in, and people who are involved in social change projects around the world get to share a little bit about that project. And it's quite inspiring to see how people are applying NVC in various places.
Right.
And, yeah, so thanks, Siva. And yeah, and thanks for mentioning Bali. I think there's still a few seats left. If anybody wants to come and play with us in Bali, some of the folks on this call, I think, are going to be there. And lots of friends are going to be there. We're going to have a good time. It's a super, super safe IIT COVID wise, I think, because everything's going to be outdoors. Bali's a real outdoor environment. In fact, even the places that are indoors have one wall usually open to the outside in Bali. And so I think it'll have great ventilation, and hopefully we'll have good weather, and we'll have a chance to really go deep with NVC and have the experience like Siva had for the last 10 days of really what it's like, what's the world look like when everyone is doing the best they can to live from the zero step, from their spiritual clarity. All right, everybody, I look forward to seeing you next week, if not sooner. We'll be back on Saturday on the NVC Academy. If you'd like to join us, then we're going to keep going with empathy there. Do some of the things that we did today. Just give people lots of chance to be heard about what might be going on in their lives. All right, thank you all for being with me, and I'll see you
Are you
next
gonna
week.
after party or not?
I'll do the after party right now for anybody that's left.
Thank you and bye-bye.
Aloha, bye-bye.
Jim, I wonder if you'd say a few more words about something. I know you've been on for 2 hours now, and if you'd like to say no, that's okay too.
Oh,
But
you
I
know
wanted
me, I
to-
probably have a few words. Go ahead.
What I wrote down that I tried to take away is the need guess or the expression of words is for me to check with the other person about how I can further improve the quality of connection.
Mm.
Yeah.
Thank
Couldn't
you,
have said it
Jeff.
better
You want
myself.
Is there
Yeah.
anything else that comes up for you about that, about how the words are for me? Because it just
Yeah.
it flips what I think I know about
Yeah, I
something.
would say that it's just a generalization of my understanding that all of our behavior is in the service of our own needs, including the need to contribute. And so I just want to remember that I'm not doing it for the other person. I'm doing it in the service of life, in the service of needs.
Thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
may bring it up again next week. If it's still alive, I'll ask you again.
Okay, sounds great. All right, well, I made a couple of groups. We'll see if anybody stays, and we'll see you next time. Aloha.